G'day traders, we're going to wrap up of Thursday the 9th of August. So you can see we're still dealing up around near the highs, so this is the Thursday candle we're looking at here. So overall wasn't a massive range, but certainly still applying some pressure to these high points up here, although as we speak now in the pre-market we are starting to get a bit of a pullback. So let me bring up a 15-minute chart. This one does a great job of correlating the shorter term and the longer term chart. So here's the day we're looking at here. Interesting thing about this is this trend line. I've got it in there and I'm extending it throughout the day, and it goes all the way back to here where it basically touched it twice there. We've used it as resistance, then support, then resistance, and then beautiful to the tick almost resistance here as well. So it's a real significant line that a lot of other traders are obviously basing a lot of their trading on. In this market, just as an overall view, the market pushed up, and you'll see this in the 5-minute chart soon. Then with some real conviction and power, we pushed down, expected it sort of hold and continue to push down around this 98 sort of level. From that it didn't, it actually continued to push higher, bounced off the gap at the time and then looked to go higher again, and from there that's where we've actually sold off. But once we got sort of override those sellers and then got pushed up through the gap, bounced off the gap, really was looking at these markets potentially going up, looking at these highs or even breaking these highs, and then even doing further on from that, going up and testing this trend line again. But not to be the case. But that's sort of how you can use this area. It's not necessarily something to specifically take a trade off, but use it as a gauge to where you believe the market might be heading. At this stage, some resistance is holding. We're actually pushing back down. I've got this 96 area mark because it's quite significant. If you look back through the days of recent times, it's it's resistance here, then all of a sudden acts as support, supports the support. Now it was the support in yesterday's day market. Now we're getting underneath it. Interesting that we're using it as a bit of resistance, and see what happens come the open of Friday. If we really start to push off from that, maybe we'll come down, put some pressures on these sort of low areas around here, and maybe we'll get a bit of a sell-off. But definitely worth keeping an eye on that 15-minute chart. So as far as having a look at these markets, the 5-minute chart and the 1-minute chart, basically what's happened, we've got some pressure on the upside here. The market's continued to push high, it's come back, and like it does many times, once it sort of breaks outside this pre-market range, it's come back, used the top of it as some support, and from there it's pushed on higher again. This is the area where the pressure really started to change. Around this area here, just looking like the market could possibly use this as support and maybe get hold this pullback and then look to go higher and look at some sort of 5-minute buys or something like that. It became obvious, obviously, with this candle, but even before that candle, the Russell and a few other markets really started to sell off hard before the other markets, and often those smaller ones are great as far as a lead indicator. And from here, the market pushed down, and would have been fantastic to see some sort of retracement, and I guess use some levels through this, especially this 96 area or something like that, and then push down lower from it. Looking for that as a potential, but wasn't the case. We actually had a 5-minute fade here, so one we look to hold and push on low. You can see clearly the moving average is pointing to the downside, but not to be the case, and that's what I mean by before. After getting such strong sellers and all the markets pushing down, all of a sudden these markets just turn that pressure around and disregard this fade set up and then start pushing straight back up towards these highs. Then we bounced off this significant 99 level. It's quite a significant support level. It's also the gap at the time. Just basically given a bit of time to see what I want to do. It looked like it wanted to hold. You could see it's holding and holding. It's been a long time on that area, and eventually it started to push higher, and from this it's where we thought that potentially the market would get some upward momentum, but in the end it just hang around sideways, and even now it's starting to get a bit of a pressure to the downside, and it's using that 96 level as potentially now a resistance to push down lower, but we'll see what happens in regards to that. So you can see on the 1-minute chart, we're hitting a few power points. Well, certainly it's not, like I said at the top of the day, it's not like we're getting massive range of movement, but still the movement, it's not too bad. I wouldn't say it's untradeable by any means. Certainly Monday and Tuesday is a little bit quieter, but Wednesday we're building up. Thursday's probably the best action we've had so far. So the middle of the week we're getting some good movement, and like I've said a few times this week, the market really tends to respect support and resistance lines. I guess because the market's moving a little bit slower, it has time for all the traders to kind of have a real look and real think about it, and everyone's kind of got the same concept, and from that the market's reacting quite nicely to those support resistance areas, whether it be a trend line, support resistance lines, or even Fibonacci levels, however you find support and resistance. But so even though we've got a slower market and a tighter range, there's some great trading opportunities. So I don't mind the one where the markets either break to the upside or the downside. In this particular case, the upside, and then look for it to come back and use the previous pre-market as a support and then push higher. So that's what it's done in this particular case here. This is where we started to, obviously we've topped out here and then we started pulling back here, so you can see looking back through the market, wonder if it's going to sort of hold around 99. Once that doesn't hold, it's going to put some pressure on this 98 level. Then obviously once it breaks through there, that's when it's going to be the real move to the downside, and all the other markets just right through this period here. You can see some strong ring candles. This is where the other markets really started to head to the downside. Looked like they want to go lower. Expected this point here to hold, or maybe even a little bit higher at 99 region. That's where the gap was. Expected somewhere like that to hold and then push down lower again, just as all the markets were looking like they wanted to turn on the downside. There was some real resistance around this area, but in the end it's held. It's got a back above it, then used this region as support, and from there, very sideways, but it tried to push a little bit higher. But in the end, it just pretty much you look at that. That's morning action was not too bad, but the afternoon is quite sideways action. But still, like we said, it's within this region. There is some trading opportunities. It's not like the market. I'm not throwing up any sort of thing, but especially the morning. I think the morning is the best way to approach it at the moment. But that doesn't mean you disregard the afternoons. I know myself. There's still been many opportunities in the afternoon as well. And where we are now, it's slow market action, but they're certainly starting to grind their way on the downside, applying some pressure, and we'll see if this 96 holds the resistance. And that's a wrap up for Thursday, and we'll speak to you guys Friday.